Coming up next on Arizona Horizon, a visit with two newly elected Arizona congressmen, Republican Representative Andy Biggs of Congressional District 5 and Democrat Tom O'Halloran of Congressional District 1. Arizona's newest congressman next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your PBS station. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simon. State Senate President Andy Biggs got a promotion last month. He was elected to represent Arizona's 5th congressional district, vacated by Matt Salmon. Joining us now to talk about his new job, Congressman-elect Andy Biggs.
Hey,
welcome
Ted.
Back to the show. Good to see you here. Congratulations on your win.
Thanks, Ted. Good to see you.
Have you been back? How often have you been back now since you've been elected?
4 times.
4 times. From what you've seen, the difference, and I know there's a lot of differences, but the clear difference between Congress, state legislature.
Well, it's bigger.
Yes.
There's more. They have committees with more members than we have in the entire state Senate. So I mean, it's bigger issues in some respects, but not any more important. But somehow bigger. And I think it's easy to see how some of those folks get caught up in the bubble of Washington, D.C.
I was going to say, what surprised you most when you went back there? What did you see and hear that you didn't expect to see and hear?
I think first of all was well, there's two things. Number one was it just seemed like everywhere we went there was media watching, which is really unusual. We do a lot of work in anonymity here, and that I'm okay with that. But there's more media. The second thing is you can really get a different vibe. I mean, the vibe before the election amongst Republicans was a little bit, I don't want to say morose, it was just kind of, there was not this enthusiasm or exuberance, but ever since November 8th, there's been this sense of excitement on the part of the Republicans in the House and even in the Senate that I've talked to.
As far as working with a President-elect Trump, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's better than working with a President-elect Clinton in my mind, but I'm hopeful that we can get some of the policies done that I ran on and that I think that coincide with what he has said that he wants to do.
I want to get to those policies in a second, but Trump is always the 900-pound gorilla in every room. And right now there's talk of congressional investigations, possible Russian cyber attacks into the election. Would you support such investigation?
Well, right now, there doesn't seem to be any evidence. There's a lot of great rumors out there, but there doesn't seem to be any evidence. And I would really want to see something solid before I would say, let's jump into this.
CIA saying that Russia was involved. Is that enough evidence?
Maybe not.
How come?
Well, they don't want to disclose what their evidence is. They're just saying, here it is. Well, why are you saying that? And what is driving that? And I think that's important to get to.
If you have party leaders both in the House and Senate, though, Republican leaders saying we got to look into this, they want to see it bipartisan, would you go along with the leadership's ideas, or again, do you need to see more for yourself?
I want to feel comfortable that if we're going to open this up, that there's something there. I think part of the thing that bothers Americans, at least in my district when I was talking, is that sometimes Washington does things regardless of cost, regardless of a thoughtful look at things. Sometimes there's some knee-jerk reaction. And I think we want to make sure that we're on top of this thing by seeing whether there really is evidence. If there's evidence, then yeah, maybe we need to do that.
But I want to make clear, you would be concerned if evidence showed Russian interference in the election, whether it's interfering for or against either candidate.
I'd be concerned if anybody was interfering with our elections, whether it's a foreign government or a hacker sitting in a basement of his house. I mean, yes, I would be concerned.
First order of business for you back in Washington.
I promised in the campaign stump that I would introduce 6 bills. We're already working on the outlines of those 6 bills, and I think we're going to be revved up to drop those bills, as I said, within 2 or 3 weeks of being elected.
Any ideas on what those bills are, or any ideas of telling us what those ideas are?
Yeah, I'm happy to. I told the public. I'll tell you, Ted.
Right.
The first one is Congress hasn't produced a balanced budget in decade, and so Congress shouldn't get paid, shouldn't get their recess until they do their job, and so that would be one of the bills. Number two is the regulatory burden that we have on the country costs almost $2.5 trillion a year. Oddly enough, that's our national debt's $2 trillion. So the REINS Act, I'll support reintroduction of the REINS Act.
Go ahead. Let's stop right there.
Yeah.
As far as regulations are concerned, we hear a lot of regulations need to be decreased. Can they be decreased too much?
Well, here's what you're looking at. You're asking me a real simple question. You would think I could just say, well, yes or no. But in reality, there are constitutional constraints on what the federal government can do and what it can't do. And that's in Article 1, Section 8. That tells us what Congress can do. Congress has essentially delegated its lawmaking authority unconstitutionally to these agencies who go out and regulate. My point would be simply this. We need to bring that back to Congress. Congress has an obligation constitutionally to oversee it, and that's where we need to rest the regulatory environment right there on Congress itself. We're beholden to the people who elect us, not like a bureaucracy who's not.
Okay. Fourth bill, I think we're up to number 4.
Yeah, we could be 3 or 4 who's
well,
counting, but we'll work on that. Common Core and federal education mandates, we need to eliminate those. Number 4 is the implementation of grants law in Maricopa County alone. Over the last 18 months or so, we've released from the feds almost 4,000 violent criminal illegal aliens. They should not be released into our city streets anywhere in this country. And so that's what grants law is about, dealing with Grant Ronnebeck. I think you're familiar with his case. Number 5 is Congress exempted itself from some of the laws with regard to Obamacare. We need to close that loophole. And then number 6, which is one of my favorites, is to create a new 12th Circuit Court, remove Arizona from the 9th Federal Circuit, put us in the 12th Circuit with Arizona, Idaho, let's see here, Nevada, Montana, Utah.
The mountain states.
The mountain states and Alaska, yeah.
You mentioned the Affordable Care Act. Let's get to that. Will you vote to repeal the Affordable Care Act?
Yes, I will. I know that's one thing my voters wanted, and I believe that that's necessary. The Affordable Care Act, though, is like the inside of a baseball filled with strings and rubber bands that need to be pulled apart. It can be very tricky to pull them all apart, but yes, I'll vote to repeal it.
If you could pull them all apart, or could pull apart as many as possible, would you do that without a replacement?
Well, I don't like to think of a term of replacement because I think Obamacare was such a bad idea that you don't want to replace it. I think what you want to do is have an alternative market-driven plan. Everything from HSAs and FSAs, flexible savings accounts, to looking at what's going on with health insurance companies driving costs, portability of insurance. These are things that we should be looking at as well.
Pre-existing conditions, provisions there?
There needs to be some acknowledgement that there needs to be a high-risk pool. I mean, every state has a high-risk pool, even in their own Medicaid systems, and Arizona was no exception, and we need to be aware of that as well.
Provision for folks 26 and under to remain on their parents' plan. Should that remain?
Look, as a guy with kids who are in that bracket, I find that a dubious necessity.
Really?
Yeah.
Explain.
Well, I mean, look, I've got, they don't even have to, they're not even required to live in your home if they're under age 26. Well, I happen to have a bevy of kids in that age group, or have had a bevy of kids, and you know what? They don't need to be on my health insurance plan.
We've heard from the Arizona Hospital Association and others in the medical field here in Arizona, 425,000 would lose coverage if the Affordable Care Act were to be just gotten rid of without a replacement of any kind. Yeah. Hospitals would suffer multi-billion, like $3 billion in the first year. And since 2010, it sounds like Arizonans, the uninsured in Arizona, it's dropped from like 17% to 11%. All that, they say, is reason that you simply cannot with a stroke of a pen or a yay vote or nay vote, get rid of Obamacare without something reasonably in place, whether it's an alternative or something in place. Do they have a point?
Look, I don't want to get into their numbers and their data, but I do think that the point is really clear. Something that has been as massive as Obamacare has been, it needs to go away. It's loaded with problems. The reality is, if you just repeal it and leave this ball bouncing somewhere, you're not going to be able to. Let's just face it: the Republicans are going to get the blame. It'll be shifted from the Democrats right over to Republicans. So Republicans better have some ideas for alternative proposals, whether they be market-based, market-driven, which would be my approach. Or whatever they may be. They need to have something, an alternative.
Speaker Ryan, we're running out of time here, but now Speaker Ryan was saying that he wants the House to ease up a bit on waging what he called symbolic but empty fights.
Yeah.
Does that make sense to you?
Well, yeah, I've always been a big believer that you choose your battles and you fight those battles, and sometimes a symbolic battle is just as important as a more substantive battle. But by and large, I've tried to build my idea of policy advancement through the idea that, yeah, you choose your battles and you go after the ones that need to be changed sooner, and you fight them vigorously and try to win those.
Has the gravity, last question here, has the gravity of this position sunk in?
I think, it has begun to sunk in. I think it would be naive of me to say, yeah, I really get it. But I think that you begin to feel the weight of it. It's pretty weighty.
All right. Well, congratulations again on your victory. Good luck, and we hope to hear from you again soon. Thanks for being here. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Ted.
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. Have a happy holiday.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks.
Our discussion with recently elected Arizona Congressman continues now with former state lawmaker Tom O'Halloran, who was elected to represent Congressional District 1, which was vacated by fellow Democrat Ann Kirkpatrick. We welcome Representative-elect Tom O'Halloran to Arizona Horizon. Congratulations on your win.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate the citizens of Congressional District 1 putting me into office.
Why do you think you won?
I think my message was to the needs of the district. It was orientated around jobs, making sure we had health care, and basically making sure the families in the district improved their life.
I know land and water issues are big in that district. They were big in the campaign. Talk about your vision there, and especially how that vision coincides with environmental concerns.
Well, as you know, in my history in Arizona, it's water and forestry issues have been a big part of my public policy input. I feel that in District 1, the forestry issues are important to our economy and important to the long-term viability of the 5 national forests that are in the district and the Grand Canyon. And as far as water goes, we have the Colorado River in the district. We have the Salt River in the district. So this is an important issue for the entire state in the Southwest.
I know in the campaign you said you would protect coal-related jobs. How would you do that, and how do you also protect against carbon emissions?
Well, you plan for it. You just don't come into communities and say, we are going to take away all the best jobs in these rural communities, and you people, we haven't even consulted you. I want the people of my district consultant. I want a national plan to do this, not just a haphazard plan. And I believe that Congress has not done its job of debating this in Congress. They've allowed an agency to take steps that I think it needs to go through a congressional approval process.
Would you vote to kill the president's Clean Power Plan?
Well, I think that the new president is going to have to do that on himself, and he's going to take that. That plan has not gone through Congress. I want to see it go through Congress.
Well, there were 2 resolutions last year in Congress. The House did just that. They voted against the Clean Power Plan. I mean, if that were to come up, how would you vote?
Don't know yet. I don't see what the plan would be. If it did not include those elements of making sure communities are made whole, making sure that there's a national public policy on power, and making sure that we are not just closing plants for the sake of politics versus what's going on in the rest of the world, then I would vote for it.
What about the president's plan for a Grand Canyon area monument? Controversial, could come up for a vote.
I would vote for that. I've already sent a letter in of support.
Okay, so for those who say that it's too much, it takes too many jobs and it takes too much opportunity away from not the Grand Canyon itself, but the Grand Canyon area up there, you say?
I don't know what jobs people are saying that it's going to take away. Cattle industry is protected, timber industry is protected. The only thing that it does not allow in that area is mining. And hunters are protected. And in fact, it protects a watershed and it protects jobs because of tourism in that area.
You know that you're going to get a very vociferous argument on the other side, and it's going to come everywhere from the president on down now. How effective can Democrats be on Capitol Hill getting things done?
Well, I think that people are rushing ahead of themselves in this whole thought process that Democrats are going to be irrelevant. Within the Republican caucus, there's already people talking about things that they don't like within the president's plans. I see a caucus that at one time or another is going to fracture along some lines on some issues. Then that allows the opening for Democrats to negotiate.
I was going to say, we talk about the Affordable Care Act a lot because it looks like it's headed for a fall, although, again, President-elect Trump says he's not going to do anything without a replacement plan. Your fellow Representative-elect Andy Biggs says, well, not a replacement, it's got to be an alternative, you can't just get rid of it. How do you plan to fight for the provisions in the Affordable Care Act?
Well, the provisions that are in there are some of the cost drivers that are affecting the plan. And so what I said in my campaign is I want to take a look at those cost drivers to see if they're needed, if they're relevant, and to improve the plan, not to do away with the plan. And when you talk, all of a sudden, it's easy to say things on the campaign trail about doing away with the Affordable Care Act. It's much harder when you're affecting families and the lives of our citizens. And that's what we're talking about now. Now reality is at the table. And reality says, you need to find something to replace it, and it has to be something that allows those citizens and more citizens to be able to afford health insurance.
Republicans say there is something out there. It's market-driven in general, for the most part, market-driven. Could you live with something like that?
I haven't seen a market-driven. We're here because of market-driven insurance.
Yes.
And the fact that we had an Affordable Care Act because it wasn't being taken care of. And whether it's you take a family in poverty that's above the line for access in the state of Arizona, Medicaid, and they don't have the resources for a savings plan, a medical savings plan. They don't care about a tax credit because the tax credit they don't pay taxes because they're under a certain level. And a family of 4 making $40,000 a year, they can't afford this health insurance.
Whether it's the Affordable Care Act or other concerns, you mentioned working with Republicans. There might be some opportunities there as perhaps the Republican caucus fractures in ways that we can't even imagine right now. The campaign, you were quoted as saying, we are at our best when we are united. The country does not feel united, and Capitol Hill does not feel united. Washington doesn't. How do you get that? How do you get that unification to happen?
Well, I don't think we are united right now as a country and politically. And how you get to do it is, I'm part of a freshman class of Republicans and Democrats, and we just came back from the Kennedy School of Government where we dealt with policy. And one of the things those that were at the school said was we are going to work together. We are going to meet on a regular basis. I joined a group called the New Dems. We work with Republicans, put our hand out and say, let's work together on these major issues affecting the citizens of Arizona and the United States. So you don't do it by taking jabs at people by just saying, they're wrong. You do it by working together and creating public policy that's for the betterment, not political betterment, but the betterment of society.
But I can hear Democrats and critics saying that's all fine and dandy, but it's one thing to say I'm going to work with Republicans. It's another to say I'm going to work with Republicans when they won't work with you.
Well, it's impossible to work with somebody that refuses to work with you. They have to show that they're willing to work. And if they're not willing to work, we still have to look at the policy that comes out. I don't know what Mr. Trump is going to put out as public policy. Nobody does. I know what I've heard. I have some very serious concerns about some of his nominations and so forth.
What's the biggest concern of what he's done so far?
Anything on foreign policy. I mean, I've never in my entire life seen a president-elect start to get involved so much in foreign policy. You take a look at the statement he made on Twitter again today about F-35, which is important to Arizona. And Lockheed Martin lost $4 billion at one point during the market today. I mean, that is just not the appropriate thing for somebody that's not involved in our foreign policy yet and not involved in our procurement system yet, defense yet.
Do you think that there is a smoking gun that shows that Russian hackers tried to intervene in this election cycle?
Well, I'm not on any intelligence committee and probably won't be as a freshman, but I can say this. If there is the hint of it, and there is, then we should look into it. We should not allow this type of thing to go unanswered. We have to make sure the integrity of our electoral system is kept intact and that no foreign powers are able to do what could have been done under these circumstances.
The likely number two at the State Department, John Bolton, is saying that the Democrats could be responsible for hacking into this election because of a false flag situation. In other words, you do the dirty stuff and then blame it on your opponents. You buying that?
John Bolton said a lot of things over the last number of years. I don't buy it, and Mr. Bolton didn't offer any proof that this occurred. So until you offer proof, and that's why I think the bipartisan group has gotten together and said, let's take a good, hard look at this together and make sure that we know what we're talking about. Up until now, whether it's myself or others out there, until you get the investigation done, none of us really know what we're talking about.
How did your orientation go when you first went back to D.C. and they were shuttling you around all over the place?
Well, shuttling around is true. It went great. I enjoyed the look into the future of being a congressman. I enjoyed the debates that we had, meeting other congressmen from both parties, making sure that we started to develop our offices and our staff and starting to get a foundation built to in my case, represent Congressional District 1. And I've got a good Washington staff already on board, and part of my district staff is on board.
Anything surprise you? Anything you didn't expect?
Not really. I mean, I just think it's scale.
Yes.
And the awesome responsibility that you've taken on to make sure that when that scale has developed that way, that we do have a competent staff, that we do make sure the constituency work is taken care of, and at the same time that we do our homework on public policy.
Speaking of scale, Congressional District 1 is huge. It is mammoth. You're 5 hours away by plane just from the district, and then to cover the district, you're going to have to do a lot of traveling. How are you going to represent all of these people from so far away?
Well, tomorrow we start our trip through the Navajo Reservation, and then on the way back start doing some of the cities and towns in northern Arizona. And then the next day we go into the eastern part of the state for 2 days. And then the 2 days after that we go down into the southern part of the district. And we will continue to make these rotations through. I told the citizens of Congressional District 1 that I was going to be at their meetings, and I am going to be there.
And the last question, I've been asking this of all of our Congress people, especially when they first get elected. Has the gravity of all this sunk in?
If it hasn't, you better not have taken the job. This is serious work, and you need to take it seriously. And that awesome responsibility, you told people that you're going to represent them. They might disagree with you at times, but your job is to make sure you know the facts. And that is going to be something that's going to be a challenge on a continuing basis.
All right. Well, again, congratulations. Good luck to you. And thank you so much for joining us. We
Thanks
do appreciate
a lot, Ted.
it.
Appreciate it.
And Tuesday on Arizona Horizon, we visit with Democratic Congressman Ruben Gallego of District 7 and Democratic Congresswoman Kyrsten Sinema of Congressional District 9. That's tomorrow, 5:30 and 10 here on Arizona Horizon. That's it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thanks for joining us. You have a great evening. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your PBS station. Thank you.